Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's a great Tuesday morning here in your nation's capital. It's a little rainy, and the commute is pretty rough if you're dealing with the top side of the Beltway, Interloop especially. But, we're going to get you through it. It's still a great day. It's a great day to be alive, and we're grateful for it. And we're grateful for you for joining our morning conversation. Coming up at 7:05, we're going to have company as Matt Schlapp from CPAC will join us. 7:35, Congressman Andy Harris. 8:05, Alex Pleatzis, who used to work with the White House on hostage policy. And then at 8:35, Winsome Earl Sears in the home stretch now to Election Day, and it's neck and neck. That's all coming up. And we're joined all morning long by friend of the program, Sean Kennedy. Sean, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Larry. It is a pleasure to be here and not be on the roads.
Yes. Amen to that. So the media is freaking out right now about a new policy for press access at the Pentagon. It began a couple of months ago when Sean Parnell, spokesperson for the Pentagon, put out new procedures and new guidelines for reporters. And it breaks down pretty easily, 3 bullet points reiterated yesterday by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He said, all right, the press no longer get to roam free throughout the Pentagon, which, that sounds pretty normal. I'm not allowed to just roam free in the Pentagon. Is anyone allowed to roam free in the Pentagon? Why should the media get that kind of privilege? Number 2, you have to wear a visible badge. So if somebody sees you, they know that you're press, you're media. This obviously will allow people who may be talking in a corridor or right outside their office door that they should maybe stop talking about a certain thing because someone in the media could overhear them. And number 3, credentialed press no longer are permitted to solicit criminal acts. In other words, the media can't proactively go to somebody and say, hey, give me this anonymous tip off the record. Don't worry, I'll protect you, because that would be breaking the law. And I know that that's part of the coin of the realm here in Washington, D.C., that the media actually don't do any hard reporting and discover stories on their own. They get it handed to them, usually anonymously and usually illegally by somebody who works either in the national security or military or in the intelligence community. But that is against the law. And the press should no longer be able to solicit people and have some kind of protection for that kind of criminal act. That's it. Those are the policies. And Sean, it seems reasonable, and I know it's reasonable because the press corps in town are going nuts about it.
It's clear that there's something going on, something rotten in the careers, because a lot of people, by the way, who work in the Pentagon aren't necessarily active duty military. They're civilians at DOD, and some of them are hostile to this administration, and this administration's politicals are hostile to them. So now they need to find a new avenue to get their stories, because under the Biden administration, they could just go to the politicals and they'd happily leak stories that were, generally favorable to the Biden administration to them. But now to get their latest scoop, they have to, hunt down moles and things like that. But the rule of thumb here should be, what are other agencies doing both in the past and to this day? You cannot wander, to my knowledge, the halls of Langley, the CIA headquarters, and just I'm going to stop into this coffee room and, make chit chat. Hey, who do you work with? Well, I'm over in the Chinese Affairs Division, or, but you can do that in the Pentagon. If you have a press badge, you get in the front door, and then after that, you take off the press badge. And there are tens of thousands of people who work in that building. There's no way that any given person could know that everyone who's supposed to be there is the person that's in front of them.
Journalists are lining up shoulder to shoulder opposing this. And I'm talking about diverse media entities, from the Washington Post to the New York Times to Newsmax and CNN, saying that it's too restrictive. Here's a sample. It seems like their biggest problem is that journalists are basically would be signing an agreement that would make them culpable for a criminal act if they are trying to get someone to speak anonymously off the record about something they're not supposed to speak about, which I understand. Again, I understand that's what reporters do in this town. But when you're dealing with the military and national security, look at the story that CNN got wrong about the results of the bombing raid in Iran. It was wrong. It was false. they got somebody to speak off the record about that, and it was damaging. It was damaging to our military and the administration at a time where we were assessing that damage, and we were trying to get some political and diplomatic successes. We ended up getting those successes because it was such a devastating bombing run. But the reporters shouldn't be going out of their way trying to get classified, unauthorized, anonymous information. And you can't tell me that if they're trying to get someone to break the law, that they shouldn't be culpable for breaking that law too. Here's the statement from the New York Times. Journalists from the New York Times will not sign the Pentagon's revised press pass policy, which threatens to punish them for ordinary news gathering protected by the First Amendment. Well, maybe it shouldn't be protected by the First Amendment. Again, if Deep Throat comes out of the shadows, taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, I've got a story for you, that's one thing. But if you're the one who's proactively going out there and whining and dining Deep Throat and trying to entice them to break the law, well, that shouldn't be legal, should it? I don't know. Am I naive about the First Amendment and how it's wielded in this way?
Well, I don't even agree with you in terms of the idea that somebody taps you on the shoulder at Joe's Crab House or whatever over on by the White House, Trump's favorite, safe D.C. restaurant. Is I think if you have classified information and you possess it or somehow even encourage its dissemination, in the case of the press, you should also be culpable as the recipient, at least as an active recipient, because you're trading in U.S. national security secrets, which are going to get people killed. I mean, this was not allowed during World War II. If you did what they're suggesting when they built the Pentagon, they would lock you up as an enemy combatant, like you were actively engaged. And the press went along with the idea that there was a national security interest in not betraying America's secrets. But now, to your point, every one of these journalists thinks they're Woodward and Bernstein, and every one of these DOD employees that are leaking at least think they're Daniel Ellsberg in the Pentagon Papers. Everyone's ego comes before America's interest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you raise Ellsberg and the Pentagon Papers case and everything. There is a line there. You're right. If you reveal the plans for D-Day before D-Day happens, yeah, you're right. That should be something that's illegal. But then against that, the government has to prove that, what is it? The burden of prior restraint or something like that. You have to prove that it's going to. Neither of us are lawyers. I don't want to get bogged down in it, but I'm just trying to show a distinction between the two. But either way, I don't, based on the policies that has been laid out here, I don't see how it's a problem. And Chris Plant, our colleague here on the radio, he used to be a Pentagon correspondent. I've asked him about it, and he says, no, there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this at all.
I would be curious to hear from Chris, which is what was the policy change? I'd be curious when this I would say lifting of the veil happened, because I don't think that this has gone on in perpetuity where they've had free reign to wander around and that there were no criminal consequences for soliciting classified information. I think this is recent, and it may also simply be benign neglect in the sense that nobody has wanted to stand up to journalists.
That's probably the case as well. And listen, over at the Pentagon, they love getting their cred, with the media entities in this town, and they love seeing their name in the paper, or they love seeing their ability to push an agenda and push an issue. And sadly, we have seen that there are a lot of people who have worked against the administration and many of the policies that they've tried to push. By the way, Gavin Newsom, again, if you're wondering who's on the right side of this, Gavin Newsom says that this is a violation of free speech, which it is not. So there you go. It isn't even a close call. 6:15 WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
So President Trump, after delivering his words to the Knesset in Jerusalem that we covered for you during the program yesterday, then he met with the hostage families, which was incredible, emotional. Take a look at those videos. You're going to want to see it to believe it. the gratitude to President Trump and the Trump administration and to America. Understand that in the same way when they go after Donald Trump, they're really, they're ticked off at you for supporting Donald Trump. Well, when you see people from around the world being so grateful to President Trump and America, they're grateful to Americans. Honestly, the way that we have been elevated internationally by our role in these peacekeeping missions and getting the hostages freed, absolutely incredible. President Trump then went to Egypt for a big summit of the Arab nations who will be partially financing the rebuild of the Gaza territories. And then there were also leaders from Western Europe and other international coalition countries who will be overseeing the disarming of Hamas and the withdrawal of troops, Israeli troops, one little border at a time. It's going to be like a reverse concentric circle targeted situation there as things get cleaned up and as Hamas disarms. It truly is. Have you noticed, by the way, Sean Kennedy, as I lay all this out, the letters U and N are not involved in any way whatsoever here. The United Nations did nothing. They had nothing to do with this. And yet we saw a meeting of all of the countries from the United Nations, except for China and Russia, of course, all meeting in Egypt, all trying to get their photo op with President Trump and all committing to this peace process. It really is an extraordinary thing.
I mean, the idea that a multilateral institution was toothless and actually counterproductive, Larry,
shocking.
Don't lie to me.
Perhaps they might want to rethink the strategy of having UN sit on the Human Rights Council there at the UN. It does sort of undermine the credibility. But then this extraordinary thing happened, and we're going to talk about it. Trump is standing there in Egypt in front of this white background with the logo of the Peace Summit there on it after they did a second signing there in Egypt. And each world leader went up to shake his hand and have a photo opportunity, all right, including, everybody, right? But specific, Giorgia Meloni, who I have a bit of a crush on. Don't tell Meredith, but, come on. Am I wrong? She's lovely. She's Italian. She's got the accent. She's phenomenal.
I like brunettes.
All right. Nothing wrong with that. Good call. I'm guessing your wife is brunette.
Actually, she's a redhead. No, I'm joking. She's a brunette.
It would have been really. Thankfully, she's not listening to you right now. They all go up and they take their moment to have shake his hand. But then something weird happened when Macron went up there, President Macron of France. Trump would not let go of his hand. Like you could see Macron, and Trump kept forcefully holding on to his hand. They kept changing the grip in various ways, and he kept just holding on to him. He kept whispering into his eyes. And as Macron was sort of like trying to lean away, Trump would pull his arm back towards him so that his body was in there. The body language was extraordinary, and I don't know what they were saying to each other. But did you see this video? It was weird and awkward.
I don't know, but one of the things that I think, it's a great power move in general, but Trump is, various heights, I hear, when you go on the Google machine. But he's at least over 6'2". President Macaroon is like 5'6" or something. And I only realized that at the UN.
Is that what Brigitte calls him?
Yeah,
you think Brigitte calls
Macaroon.
him?
Well, he's delicious and flaky and very meringue. He's very short. He's tiny. He's like
he is.
He's like you could put him in your pocket. So yeah. I mean, I think I don't know, but Trump may have thought he was the entertainment. Like they had brought midgets. Or something.
Are you gonna juggle or what? What's going on here? What are you doing here, Cloud?
Put the hat back on.
No,
I don't know. I think there's a power move there. It's like he tried to undermine Trump. He's tried to undermine Trump on Ukraine and his Putin negotiations. He's tried to undermine Trump here in recognizing the Palestinian state. He's trying to undermine Trump on his international trade deals in terms of the tariffs. So look what I did.
Yep. No, well, so Miranda Devine of the New York Post, she put the caption in that she thinks was going on there as Trump was, sort of side-eyeing Macron, grabbing it, clutching his hand and squeezing it until the bones broke. She says, "Yeah, you little French worm, you tried to sabotage my peace deal by recognizing the Palestinian state, but all you managed to do was delay it. Take that." And I do like the idea of calling him macaroon. That's true. He's a little macaroon that you can put in your pocket.
By the way, Whole Foods has great macaroons. Really, really good.
Do you call them macaroons or macaron?
I don't know. Is it caramel or caramel? I don't know what it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know.
This is the America. They're macaroons to me.
Well, somewhere we have to get the lip readers to like fill in what was being said here between the two of them. If you haven't seen the video, we'll tweet it out on our social media page there for WMAL.
I just think the AI videos they're fake would be funnier than what actually was exchanged.
That's true. But and it is, again, it's extraordinary because he's up there and they're doing this really weird, like it's almost like an arm wrestling thing. And then Giorgia Meloni for Italy goes up there and they just have a very nice, normal, formal, cordial, warm handshake. Because he respects her, and obviously not so much for Macron. No. 6:23. Coming up at 6:30, we're going to talk to the media and the real struggle session they had, praising properly President Trump for the peace deal, and yet always reminding themselves, wait a second, no, he's Hitler. How did this happen? We'll show you next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now as our Tuesday morning plows a face first straight ahead into the news cycle. Thanks for joining us this morning. Coming up at 7:05, Matt Schlapp will join you in joining us to talk about the hostage release and the peace deal. 7:35, Representative Andy Harris on the shutdown. 8:05, Alex Pleitsis, who used to work as a hostage policy team member at the White House. And then at 8:35, the lieutenant governor and soon-to-be governor of Virginia, Winsome, Earl Sears. That's a loaded morning, and I'm glad to have Sean Kennedy, friend of the program from Virginians for Safe Communities, joining us all morning long. Good morning, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure indeed. You know the old saying that we used to throw around for the last several years, if Trump cured cancer, the media would find a way to be pro-cancer, right? If Trump brought world peace, and found a way forward for the Israel-Hamas war, the media would find a way to criticize him for that, right? That's sort of been the MO for the media for the last several years. But I got to tell you, are you sitting down? Oh, you are sitting down. Look at you sitting down. Sean Kennedy yesterday proved us all wrong because there were a few rare and astonishing moments where journalists, reporters for the mainstream media on networks that are usually very critical of Donald Trump, they had to concede the obvious. Listen to this. James Longman from ABC News. And as you hear him go on, just listen to how he's describing what he witnessed with Donald Trump, as if this is the first time he's ever actually seen who Donald Trump is. It's like, where has this guy been for the last 10 years? Take a listen.
I think today what I've been mostly struck by is Donald Trump's sheer force of personality. There are not many men, not many leaders who can walk into the Knesset in Israel to such rapturous applause, such a warm welcome, to clearly know so many members of the Israeli leadership so personally. He's been in the weeds on this, and then less than an hour later, appear in a room of world leaders, Arab and Muslim leaders, and have the same kind of warm welcome. It really is his force of nature which has managed to make this happen. I was struck that he was standing on that stage here in Sharm el-Sheikh, welcoming world leader after world leader, many of whom he's had his disagreements with, as we know. And it wasn't President Sisi of Egypt doing that. It was him. He is front and center here. His force of will, he has said what he wants to happen. He's laid out this 20-point plan. The objectives are very clear.
It's refreshing to see. That's ABC News, Sean Kennedy. It's refreshing to see them actually taking a moment, and even if they have to hold their nose, say nice things about Trump. But what was astonishing to me is everything that he described about Trump's personality and the way he commands a room and has the ear of world leaders and works with his sheer will and personality to try to get something done. This is not new. This is how he's been operating for years.
Yeah, I think the issue was the time difference screwed up the DNC talking points guy. He slept in, and they couldn't get their points across fast enough. But I will say what was especially, I'm sure heartening in the White House was that came from a guy with a British accent. So it's extra earnest and accurate.
All right.
No, but honestly, I think the media really had a hard time because it is one of those things where how do they square the circle on this is a great thing. How do we make Trump look bad? And it kind of reminds me, I think Steven Crowder and some other people went around. I'm sure Charlie Cook was obviously less sort of snarky about things like this, but they used to go around college campuses during the Obama era, and they would read off a policy or an action, and they'd say, did you hear that did you know about George W. Bush's policy to do blah, 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 blah? And then they would get all irate, these college kids on these campuses, and then they'd say, actually, that's Obama's policy to assassinate Americans overseas. Oh, that's a good idea. And they do the same thing now, and they do it with Trump policies. They're like, do you think it's a good idea to give tax cuts to working single mothers? Absolutely. That's such a great idea. Yeah, that's Joe Biden's platform, right? No, that was Donald Trump's tax cut.
Hilarious.
And so whenever that happens, it's sort of you have to have an opinion before you know the substance, then you're in a bad place. And that's what happened right here is they couldn't formulate their opinion fast enough.
All right. So, and you're right about the British accent giving extra gravitas. Now I'm really going to blow your mind. Let's trade the British accent for a Brooklyn accent. This radio host who appeals to the African-American community, Charlemagne the God. I still want to change my name here on the show to Larry the God, but they won't let me. Charlemagne the God, highly critical of Trump, a card-carrying member of the Democrat Party, friend of Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. Listen to him yesterday.
Donald Trump shows me what's politically possible. Trump shows me what presidents can do if they want to do it. Donald Trump shows me what can be said if you are willing to say it. It's not about what can't be done. It's about who has the political will to do it. I don't want to hear a peep from Democrats about nothing until they get the balls to say what's really on their mind in regards to this country and this world. Trump doesn't care if it sounds ridiculous. Trump doesn't care if it makes sense. It's no political correctness whatsoever. As I've been saying for years, the language of politics is dead, and Donald Trump killed it, period.
I mean, again, it's amazing to hear, and at the same time, it's like, yeah, thank you. It took you 10 years to get here. And beyond that, though, Sean, not just, the praise you're hearing from the left-wing media and people who are always usually critics of Donald Trump. The other thing was amazing was the silence from the corridors of the Bulwark and the Dispatch, the Jonah Goldberg. I mean, I think Jonah Goldberg put out a tertiary statement that was equivocated, of course, as usual. Nothing from the Steve Hayeses or David Frenches of the world. Certainly nothing from the Bill Kristols of the world, which is, frankly, even more revealing about who they are and what they stand for.
I mean, John Bolton, though, he went and sharpened his axe on the grinding stone yesterday. I saw him. He doesn't know anything about Ukraine or Russia. I mean, we got to move on to the other problems I can complain about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
John Bolton.
Steve Witkoff doesn't know what he's doing, except that he brought an end to the war. Amazing. Yeah, we need the experts in charge. Look what good they've done for us. 643.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
So, Sean Kennedy, we go from these unicorn moments of the media sort of praising Trump and ironically and hilariously sort of pointing out things as like Trump did this and what I've really noticed about Trump is his personality and his will. And it's like, dude, where have you been for the last 10 years? I say it all the time. People in the media don't really follow the news much. They follow each other. They don't really follow the news. But we go from that to another unicorn moment, CNN criticizing Barack Obama on the air from Abby Phillips, actually. Here, Barack Obama put out a statement. And here's what it is. You tell me what's missing. After 2 years of unimaginable loss and suffering for Israeli families and the people of Gaza, we should all be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight, that those hostages still being held will be reunited with their families, and that vital aid can start reaching those inside Gaza whose lives have been shattered. More than that, though, it now falls on Israelis and Palestinians, with the support of the U.S. and the entire world community, to begin the hard task of rebuilding Gaza and to commit to a process that, by recognizing the common humanity and basic rights of both peoples, can achieve a lasting peace. Did you notice what was missing, Sean?
No, what is it? He's got every word in the English language in that tweet.
Any mention of Donald Trump. Excuse
was
me.
he involved in this? I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
only seen this tweet this morning because that was the only news I had about what happened. So.
Even Joe Biden, in his statement, praised Donald Trump. Barack Obama couldn't bring himself to do it. Listen to the CNN panel last night talking about it.
Honestly, it's not unfair to say if President Obama's going to write a whole post about a peace deal, maybe he should acknowledge the president that brokered it.
If Donald Trump gets a peace deal, he deserves the credit.
Well, there you go. But even, Obama can't bring himself to it. He's a petty little man, that Barack Obama.
Well, he didn't get the peace deal. I mean, that's the thing, is that Barack Obama's legacy, it's sort of the irony is the only person who is unexpected to do something is the one who achieves it, and that's Barack Obama killed Osama bin Laden. Like, we can give him credit for that. He ordered the thing that we couldn't get done prior to that, and he obviously, trumpeted that and ran and likely won re-election largely or partially to that. And so you have to give him credit for what he made, the decision that could have gotten a lot of SEAL Team 6 members killed if it went south and embarrassed America and all these things. But he made the tough decision, and he gets credit for it.
Right.
You have to give credit where credit's due.
He got credit from Republicans across the board. I was no fan of Barack Obama, but everybody said, wow, that was a tough call. He made the call, and it happened. And thank God Osama bin Laden's been sent to his grave. Meanwhile, listen to Sam Harris, who's basically his whole job is to just go on media and hate on Donald Trump and say the most despicable things about him. But here he is, cut 14.
Trump got a deal done. And that's something I don't believe you believe would have happened under a President Harris.
It pains me somewhat to admit this, but yes, he's certainly been good for the Middle East and for Israel in a way that I don't think there was any reason to expect Harris to be good. And Biden certainly wasn't good, apart from the first few weeks after October 7th, or maybe a couple of months after October 7th.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Not only is this objectively a great story and Trump deserves praise, but everyone, held their breath a moment and reflected on how bad things would be if we were talking about President Kamala Harris right now. It's 6:52.